Okay, cool. Burrow's 2023 season, this is not his best year. I remember he was hurt in the beginning, and then for 4 weeks, he was awesome. And then he got hurt again. So does anyone have Burrow's MVP season on the board?
Oh, I do.
Nice.
Absolutely. Like, he wouldn't be my pick, but he's on the very, very short list. I think Burrow has been consistently underrated. And I think he's highly rated, and I think he's consistently underrated. When it's not just that when he plays, the Bengals win. When he plays, he puts up awesome numbers. He's scared of no one. He totally changed the trajectory of that franchise. Sure. And he's the only guy still playing in the league who we have seen consistently play his best when playing Patrick Mahomes, who is the standard. And so to me, if someone argued he's the second best quarterback in football, they have a great argument for it. And so do I think that Burrow will win an MVP at some point? Yes. Do I think that right now would make sense? Because I don't know how many years in his career after this one he's going to have 2 number 1 caliber receivers. Mm-hmm. He's going to have Chase, we assume, long term, even though the Bengals haven't signed him. But Higgins, we also assume this is last year there. Now they spent 3rd round pick on Burton, who they hope can turn into that. But still, now they have all 3 of those guys. Plus, if you read the reports out of Cincinnati, the Yoshavash kid, they like him a lot. So regardless, yeah, I mean, I think that is absolutely on the board. It's a brutal division, and it's hard to win MVP if you don't win 12 or 13 games, and that's going to be their hardest part. But do I think he's going to have MVP caliber numbers? I do. Do I think he's a great quarterback, and that's who wins MVPs? Of course I do. Yeah.
Anytime you have one of the best quarterbacks on your roster healthy, he has an opportunity to win season MVP. Period, point blank. Looking at this, all the things that you just shared are factual. Like, when we watch this young man under center and he is healthy, he's one of the best in the business. Clear cut, there's no argument against that. He is one of the best in the business. And he gives and provides this organization an opportunity to play meaningful football. Mm-hmm. When you play meaningful football, what do you expect of your best player? To show up and play even better. That's what he's always done. And so for me, when you have that type of an ability and a player that consistently shows that, win again, big win, and if he's healthy, yes, this is on the board. Okay.
Yeah, that haircut to me screams, I've got another gear. You know, like, it's like last season he was unhappy with it, so he went through a breakup and changed his look. Yeah. And he talks about being bigger, stronger, faster. I believe those things too. He's shown that he can perform in big moments. He's shown that he can slay the dragon. Both things that you need from a guy who you're considering to be an MVP. And you get the sense that his bravado isn't bravado, it's truly confident.
Yeah, correct.
That he's confident in who he is, and he's not trying to convince himself or others that that's who he is. That's what he brings to the table, and that's impactful to the rest of the group.
Go ahead.
No,
sorry,
go.
No, go.
No, because I'm going to move on.
Okay, well, so good. Then I'll do this real quick. I am not saying he is this caliber of player, but there are, and I'm obviously not the first person to make this comp, there are a lot of Tom Brady similarities because he does not have the best measurables. I think arm strength, he's about league average, to be totally honest with you. I think there's probably half the quarterbacks in the league have a stronger arm. He's not that athletic. He's not that escapable. And I think often, and this was what frustrated me so much a couple years ago with the Josh Allen commentary, is these eye-popping measurables, which I value as much as anybody when guys are coming out of school, early on, those things. To me, got over-importance over, yeah, but the games are played, and this guy, despite his whatever the physical limitations are, makes the right decision, does not get rattled ever in the biggest moments, and I do care about what he did in college. I understand he had an all-star team around him, but he was healthy for that last year at LSU. He had statistically one of the greatest seasons in college football history. He's been healthy for 2 pro seasons. Both of them, he got to the Arrowhead Invitational, and he won one of them. And so I mean, he's going to win an MVP at some point.
We were talking about CD. You kind of mentioned and alluded to this. Yeah, you're going to be concerned if you're Bengals fans because history tells you that our owner kind of botches situations like this. He doesn't like to pay. They don't historically like to pay their guys. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're not going to pay Jamar Chase, but when you allow a player that's proven to be one of the best to just sit and wait, and I don't get it because now you sit back and you give the Dallas Cowboys an opportunity to potentially either match, try get as close to Justin Jefferson or try to leapfrog Justin Jefferson. Well, you guess what Jamar Chase is going to want and have a legitimate argument about. I'm better than CD. I'm better than Lamb. So he's going to want that. So it's just pay these guys. Like, I get it. It sounds easy for me to just say it because I'm not the one handing out, dishing out all this money. But just pay this man and get this over with because he is going to be on your roster. It's why you franchise tagged T. Higgins.
Can I ask you a question, Coach?
Sure.
Does Joe Burrow have any responsibility to, like, lean on a reluctant ownership group? Be like, hey, we got a game in under 30 days. Like, it's Justin Jefferson's making this, Tyreek Hill's making this. Like, can we get it done? Like, I'm trying to
he can try to influence it, but that ownership group's been in place for a long time, and there's certain things that they fundamentally believe in from a negotiating standpoint. And if they make they made an exception for Joe Burrow in terms of his guaranteed money, and now if they make an exception for a different position, it opens up a whole another layer of negotiations. Now, here's what I'll say, is sometimes you do have to change the way you do things. And the Bengals situation has changed. They are contenders to potentially win the Super Bowl, or at least to go very far. So they're not the same old Bengals. So maybe in this situation, you do have to change the way you negotiate with the player. You do have to make a concession with your policy in order for the greater good and to take advantage of this opportunity you have in front of you.
So certain NFL negotiations make total sense to me. I'm like, oh, they can't say it, but they're not certain how good you really are. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we want to wait or we don't want to break precedent. But the reality is, like, we're not rooting for you to have a down year, but we think it's super likely, and then maybe we're going to get you cheaper, and so that's why we're waiting. There's also ones where it's like, this kid sat out a year at college, and still everyone's like, he's going to be a top 10 pick. You desperately needed offensive line help, and it's like, no, he's such a no-doubter, we're going to draft him. He then breaks records, franchise records, and is instantly productive from day one, and you're seeing the market at his position explode. And it's not going to, in the next year, it's not going to stop. It's not going to go anywhere. If I were the Bengals, I would be rushing to pay him. It's like, man, first of all, if you pay a guy after year 3, which is where he is right now, we can spread this money out over the 2 remaining years on his deal. So if you give him a 4-year extension, you spread it out over 6 years essentially, and you get it before all of a sudden somebody makes 36 or 37. I don't understand this. There are certain, it's the same way I'd feel about Micah with the Cowboys, same draft class. Like, he's definitively 100% getting paid. The earlier we do it, the better for us it is. He's not a question mark player, so I just think it's bad business.
And in terms of breaking precedent, where they did break it with Joe, they could break it here, and then the next guy that comes up, your numbers are going to have to be comparable to his numbers. And that's a harder argument for the agent to make. So I get it from an organizational perspective, but in unique circumstances, you may have to deviate from your plan. And I'd say they should be worried with the fact that he's now left the building. That says that the negotiations are further apart than closer.
Yeah, and I'll add, like, the relationship between he and Joe Burrow, your quarterback, your franchise, they are in lockstep. We see them almost everywhere together. And last year, Joe Burrow missed a bunch of training camp time. And he limped into the season, literally limped into the season, and they get off to a slow start. Now you have your best receiver missing all the training camp. What do you think is going to happen? You can't continue to be behind the 8 ball and try to catch up, especially in the division that they're in, with the division improving.
And you play Kansas City in week 2. The AFC tiebreaker could be determined in week 2. And, like, I think precedent stuff is so overrated. It reminds me of like the hand-wringing about professional athletes taunting and celebrating. It's like, what am I supposed to tell my kids? I'm like, I'll solve it for you. Tell your kids when your games are on TV, you can do it too. Sure. Until then, shut up. What am I going to tell the next player? Tell the next player, hey, here's the deal. If we use a top 10 pick on you and you're an all-pro in your first 3 years, we'll break it for you as well. Oh, you were a third-round pick and you were made it one Pro Bowl? There's no precedent here. Like, the Bengals aren't going to be in another Jamar Chase situation because as long as they have Joe Burrow in this time frame, they're not going to be drafting a guy at 5. So like, it's just insane. It's just bad business.
Not to belabor the point, but just to do a cross-sport comparison. If this was basketball, the media leans on that superstar, the face of that team, a lot. Giannis has to do something to get Dame. LeBron needs to do something to get AD there. Sometimes it backfires. Maybe the star's doing too much, maybe the star's not doing enough. It seems like in football, and tell me if I'm wrong, that's just like McCarthy said. It's like, that's business. It is what it is. And Micah just retweeted CeeDee Lamb's LOL, and that was considered like getting in the mix. But if you're the face of the franchise like Joe Burrow, this whole thing is me. You guys were the Bengals before I showed up. Now we're the Bengals. I feel like Joe Burrow has a responsibility to go in and send an email, drop a
But some guys' personality.
Edible arrangement.
Some guys feel really comfortable doing that, and some guys don't feel comfortable doing that.
Who does it? Like, the reality of it is, there's the football fraternity and then there's the quarterback fraternity. Like, and so sometimes when you are highly regarded as the face of franchises, you're going to be the highest paid. It is almost an unwritten sentence in your contract or whatever. Look, man, when X is up or when this person's up, we don't need you getting into any of that. And
you're kind of part of management.
Absolutely, because we're going to treat you differently. We expect you to be on our side or to just hold the line, period. And so that's why you don't see quarterbacks get involved.
And it can get into a slippery slope where if you do it for him and now an offensive lineman has a contract.
Or T. Higgins,
hey, you go talk
same position. T. Higgins might be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, but if it's your left tackle or your center, or like there's a lot of guys who suddenly like, wait, you did it for him. You won't speak up for me.
Correct. I'd say the same.
And that can create some bad blood.
Go to the 49ers. Is this something or nothing?
All right, this is going to be aggregated on the internet.
Okay.
Eagles folks who haven't liked me for 7 years are going to say more proof Nick hates Philadelphia. I don't care. I know I'm right. 13 picks through 13 practices like Purdy had, too many. 0 picks through 20 practices, too few.
Nick, I 100% agree with you.
Thank you. I know it sounds absurd and it sounds like I'm just picking on guys. I don't mean it. It's too few. I need a little bit in training camp of like, I took a chance there. Or it either means, in my opinion, that you are being a little too cautious. Or this horrendous back seven from last year somehow has gotten worse. Like, you need a couple interceptions where it's mid-August in training camp. I am ready to be aggregated. I don't care. I know I'm right. I know that this is not ideal. I know I'm right.
Yeah, so like as A.J. Brown speaking on it, nothing. Like I like everything what he said. That's nothing. The point that you're making is exactly where I was going. The fact that last season he had so many interceptions, you obviously want to go into training camp and see him dial that back.
Yeah.
When you see that he hasn't thrown any, the first thing that I think of is, well, is he taking chances? Like, what risks is he really trying to take? Is he pressing the envelope, or is he just doing what most quarterbacks start to do when they've thrown a lot of interceptions, get a little gun shy, and now all of a sudden they get the ball down, up Saquon, up, let me get my check down, up, let me get the tight end, let me just take what is right in front of me. And that translates to games. I'm not saying that that's what he's doing,
Fangio just lost
but
his fastball.
it's hard to believe that he's been taking every single chance and just dialing it in there.
I immediately thought these guys they drafted might not have great ball
defensive
skills.
coach.
I'm like, no interceptions throughout the whole of training camp. That's a
You
little
like
bit rough.
interceptions too? Just a
Well,
handful?
I
What's the
coach
magic
defensive
number?
backs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Defensive back.
But here's what I'll say. It's hard for me to grade someone down for being successful. Like it's hard to get like we get mad at Purdy because he's got so many. We get mad at Hurts because he has too few. What is the magic?
You tell
number?
me.
I don't. How many does Mahomes have? I bet that's it.
I don't think there's a
the
magic
right number.
I think the goal is, are you going out? Are you trying new things? Are you taking some chances? And if he's taking chances and being successful, that's great and problematic for the defense as opposed to problematic for him. But to kill the guy,
I'm not killing him.
It felt like
I'm not killing him. It's just something.
It's
What?
something. Tangentially, I also have that same take on preseason fights. I'm fighting every practice? No. Need a handful of fights. Need a handful of people pulling their helmets off.
Wild, you don't.
Need a handful of people getting hurt.
Just not
but
zero.
it's-
Just not zero
It
fights.
applies to real life too. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.